Good evening, everyone. Tonight, we'll step into a cold and ghostly moment where a thick fog covers the streets of 1930s Cleveland. Can you hear the distant sound of a train whistle? It echoes through Kingsbury Run, slides past the darkened streets, and vanishes, leaving behind a feeling you can't quite name. Something is hiding in that darkness. Someone no one has clearly seen, but everyone fears. So, before you get too comfortable, take a moment to like this video and subscribe, but only if you truly enjoy what I'm doing here. You're standing on a small slope, looking down into Kingsbury Run, a low, hollowed-out stretch of land, once a creek bed, now a shanty town sheltering hundreds of unhoused souls. Campfires flicker in rusted barrels. The sound of metal clinks from aging freight cars. Smoke, oil, and humanity mingle into a scent you'll never forget if you ever breathe it in once. September 23rd, 1935. A young boy playing near the railroad tracks discovers something in the brush. You step back instinctively as he lets out a scream. It's the lower half of a man's body, headless. The corpse is completely drained of blood, its skin waxy and gray. And not just cut, but cleanly severed. So clean, it feels surgical, like someone used to scalpels did this. You hear murmurs from the cluster of police officers, and one grumbles, "Probably just a hobo fight gone wrong." But a month later, when a second headless body, a woman this time, is found nearby, the city falls quiet. No one says it out loud, but everyone knows this is no accident. Weeks later, two scrap scavengers trip over two burlap sacks. Inside, arms, legs, and pieces of torso. Body parts dismembered and spaced out just a few steps apart, as if someone was playing a twisted game of anatomical jigsaw. Again, no heads. You sit along the cold wall of the precinct, watching the case files pile up. Names like John Doe 1 and Jane Doe 2 appear again and again. More unsettling, most of them are never identified. They are the nameless, living invisible lives and dying like they never existed at all. There's a pattern now. The victims are poor, transient, marginalized, and whoever is doing this, he's consistent. Beheadings, blood drained, dismemberment, no signs of struggle, no witnesses. Each corpse dissected like a specimen in a medical school. But investigators still can't agree on whether it's one lone killer or something more organized. What do you think? The public dubs him the Mad Butcher of Kingsbury Run, a name that sounds as grotesque as it is accurate. You imagine someone moving through the city at night, carrying a burlap sack filled with limbs, and no one notices? To calm the growing panic, the city calls in someone special, Eliot Ness. Yes, that Eliot Ness, the man who helped bring down Al Capone in Chicago. Now he steps into this nightmare not with a gun, but with a thick folder of photographs. His expression is stone, but in his eyes you see it. Even he has never seen anything like this. By now you can feel it. Something's wrong. A city buried in fog, a faceless killer, victims no one misses. It's as if you're watching a play written long before the actors arrived, and all of them are just pawns in a script written by a hidden hand. One evening, during a light rain, a witness claims to have seen a man in a doctor's coat enter a nearby alley. That's it. No face, no exit, no name. And then come the whispers. One man swears he saw a pair of eyes watching him behind an abandoned rail car. A woman says she heard quiet laughter every time she passed under a bridge. And an old homeless woman insists, "He's one of us. You just don't want to see him." You let out a soft laugh. Not because it's funny, because at this point, even you don't know what to believe. Maybe this is all a tale from some faraway place. Or maybe you're standing right on its edge. You're sitting in a dim room, soft yellow light spilling over a large map pinned to the wall. Red pushpins mark where the bodies were found. Dozens of tiny dots connected in a jagged line that runs along the railway. Eliot Ness stares at that map every day, but you know he doesn't see a pattern. Just red dots and bodies, more and more of them. Cleveland is growing restless. Newspapers question whether their hero, Eliot Ness, is really in control, but you know this is beyond anyone's control. On a June morning in 1936, the body of another headless man is found near the train station. But what makes you shiver isn't the body. It's the small note left beside it, scribbled in crooked letters. I'm still watching. The police dismiss it as a prank, but you don't. There's something about the way the note is folded, placed just so. It feels deliberate, like a ritual. You shudder. That means he could be near. As the victim count rises, Ness and his homicide team are forced to dive deeper into a world most cops avoid, the underworld of Kingsbury Run. You walk beside him now, boots crunching through trash-strewn paths, past makeshift tents and flickering barrel fires. This is a place where no one has an address, no one has a record. Every tent hides a story, but no one's telling theirs. You watch Ness interview a man known only as Frankie the Half-Blind. He tells of a tall man in gloves who shows up late at night offering help with dinner, then vanishes without a word. He smiles, he says, but he's got no teeth. You don't know what to believe, but in a case like this, nothing is too strange to ignore. One day, police find a head, one of the only ones ever recovered. It's placed on a wooden box, almost reverently, like someone wanted it to be seen. You see the photo, passed around secretly by a young officer. The hair is neatly combed, the eyes half open, as if they never closed. You feel you're staring into the eyes of horror and sorrow. Who was this person? Is someone somewhere missing them right now, not knowing they've become a piece in a monstrous puzzle? Ness orders a sweep of Kingsbury Run. You watch as police burn shantytowns to the ground. People scream, children cry. No one left to kill, an officer mutters. But you know that's not the reason. Ness is desperate, trying to regain control. In a brief memory, you return to that August night in 1936. A young couple walking by the Cuyahoga River. They hear a splash beneath the bridge. When they shine a flashlight down, they see it, part of a human torso caught on a wooden beam. The girl screams. The boy grabs her, but it's too late. That image will never leave them. One detail never made the headlines. Muddy footprints were found on the bridge, like someone had stood there watching the body float. You ask yourself, did he return to watch his own work? Was he standing just behind that couple, mere steps away? Another strange clue. One of the victims had been injected with an unknown chemical before death. It thinned the blood, slowed decomposition. Forensic experts couldn't identify the substance. In that era, such knowledge wasn't common. You wonder, could the killer be a doctor? And then the name begins to surface in hushed conversations. Francis E. Sweeney. A doctor, a veteran of World War I, experienced in battlefield amputations, and, according to files, a heavy alcoholic. Eliot Ness secretly has him detained. No public record, just a quiet interrogation in a hotel room. You imagine the scene. A quiet space. A wooden table. Ness watching as Sweeney stares out the window, speaking in riddles. He's given a lie detector test. The result? Sweeney fails. You'd think that's enough, wouldn't you? But it isn't. No physical evidence, no witnesses, no confession. Soon after, Sweeney checks himself into a mental hospital. And from there, every year, Ness begins receiving letters. Handwritten, no return address. The writing matches Sweeney's. The letters speak of guilt, of dolls without heads, of a city lulled to sleep. But investigators still don't agree whether Sweeney was the killer or just a disturbed man claiming a legacy he didn't earn. You lean back in your chair. This story started as a murder case, but now it feels like a maze. You're no longer sure who's mad, the killer, the detectives, or maybe the city itself, rotting beneath its polished surface. Then you ask yourself, if it were you, would you have believed it? Or would you have done what Ness did? Bury the truth, not out of fear, but because it's too dark for daylight.
You stand before the gates of a psychiatric hospital in Dayton, Ohio, the place where Francis E. Sweeney chose to remain for the rest of his life. Unlike the cold, echoing institutions you see in films, this place feels strangely quiet, as if the air itself is complicit in guarding his secrets. There's a small mailbox tucked into a corner of the wall. An aging nurse tells you that, like clockwork, a letter leaves this hospital on the 13th of every month. No one knows who it's addressed to. No one asks. You don't know what you're hoping to find. A long-delayed confession? Proof that justice somehow survived the dust of decades? But then you read the lines, "While they sleep, I remember, every night, the blade, the bones, and the wind howling beneath the bridge." The handwriting is crooked, but rhythmic, like poetry, like a lullaby sung by something monstrous. You look up at the second-floor window, the one where he used to sit. No one has seen Sweeney since 1964. They say he died peacefully in his sleep. Others claim his body vanished before burial. No one checked. No one wanted to. After his death, the case seemed to dissolve into dust. No more bodies. No more letters. But you don't feel at peace, as if something remains unfinished, just out of reach. You remember the pieces that never fit, the unidentified victims, the nameless lives snuffed out without witness or record. No matter how deep the investigation went, some truths refused to surface, not out of fear, but because they were born in darkness, and darkness keeps what belongs to it. You return to Kingsbury Run, now buried beneath pavement and industrial lots. Streetlights hum overhead. But if you kneel, press your hand to the earth, you'll feel it, that faint breath of something still lingering, a cold trace, a whisper of unfinished horror. And you wonder, how many more were killed but never found? How many mad butchers walk among us, just better at hiding? One night in 1950, a night watchman at an abandoned rail yard near the river reported seeing a tall figure in a long coat and wide-brimmed hat, wearing gloves, standing over the water. When the guard called out, the figure turned, not running, just smiling. Then it stepped back into the fog. No footprints, no trace, only a glove, later found, stained with dried blood and ash. That detail never made it into official reports. Too strange, too dreamlike. But you know, some things grow clearer the less we try to explain them. You wonder if Eliot Ness ever regretted it. In his later years, he lived quietly, away from headlines. They say he often woke in the middle of the night, holding those anonymous letters, whispering the same thing again and again. Why are you still here? You'll ask that too when you lie in bed and your mind starts stitching together the fragments of the unnamed, when your dreams take on the rhythm of dripping water and metal scraping bone. Part of you wants to believe the case is over, that Sweeney was the one, but another part, deeper, quieter, isn't so sure. Because if it was him, who mailed the letter in 1975? And why, after all those years, was the handwriting still the same? There's something strange about memory. The harder you try to forget, the tighter it clings. The story of the Mad Butcher isn't in textbooks. There's no museum for the victims, but in the minds of those who lived through it, in the shadows beneath rail cars, in brittle yellowed newsprint, it lives on. And tonight, as you turn out the lights, curl beneath the covers, and hope for restful sleep, remember, not every story wants to be solved. Some roads don't lead to answers. Some roads only ever lead into the fog.